Hi, this is Jack from ESFIworld.com, and with me I have Jake Sklarew, who's one of the casters here at the NASL Grand Finals. So to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about your history, perhaps just as a beta player, and your transition into casting?
Sure. Well, I originally started playing back in the beta and started streaming a lot. I wanted to do something to give back to the community. Didn't really know what, so I decided to stream since there weren't that many streamers at the time. I got pretty popular back in the beta, which is where I got a lot of my fans from. I had a lot of viewers back in the day, around like 2K or so on my personal stream. So that was a lot of fun, but it was a really stressful thing to do. For some reason, I just get really emotionally invested in my games when I'm playing, and I would like rage a lot when I would lose, etc. But there came this point in time where I had been at college and I was starting to basically like fail my classes because I was playing so much StarCraft 2, and I figured, all right, I need to not waste money just sitting here in college, not going to classes, etc. So I decided to take some time off, went home to work full time for a couple months to build up some money to just live off of. And once I had that, I think like May or so of this year, I quit and went full time into esports. So I started playing to see, I wanted to first get my skill level up, of course, make sure I could understand the game at a better level. I tried to play competitively, but funnily enough, I actually got knocked out of 6 tournaments in a row by nukes. I'm colorblind, I can't see the nuke dot, so I was like, well, guess I can't be a pro player anymore. So I decided to go into casting, which I had done just a little bit of before, and it worked out really well for me. I just got so much better feedback than I'd gotten from my streaming ever, so I was really happy to see it.
So talking about your colorblindness, for people who I'm not colorblind. I really don't understand, I think, necessarily how it feels for a player. Can you talk about how it affects you as both a player and a caster?
Well, colorblindness does affect about 10% of men in the world, only about like 1% of females, so lucky you or whatever, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not like a full colorblindness. I don't see in black and white or anything. It's a red-green color deficiency. So small red objects on a big green background often just blend in and look green. Small green objects on a red background often blend in. So like in a rose bush, for example, the roses end up looking green, and it just kind of blends in so you don't notice it quite as much. So, for example, like the nuke dot is just this tiny little red dot, often on a green background like on Lost Temple, for example, and then it makes it a little bit harder to see. The other thing that it sometimes can be annoying with is when casting, if players pick colors like red and green or even like blue-purple, stuff like that, it can be really hard to tell them apart. So in like a mirror match, that's actually why I often use something called the Stronger Team Color mod, and that just helps me differentiate the colors just a little bit more. Overall, in a tournament like NASL, I haven't really had any problems with it, but it's just always something, I guess, that stays in the back of my mind.
Do you think that players should have to pick certain colors to help with things like this?
Oh, I think it would be an absolutely fantastic thing to add to tournament rules. Some tournaments already do it. They force like red-blue, which is great. Obviously, it's pretty impossible to mix up red and blue, but the problem is, of course, red, you still have that on a green background. Shattered Temple, maybe you won't see a dot in the mini-map, and you miss a drop coming in, something like that. So, for example, like yellow-blue ends up working out just absolutely phenomenally. So some people would say that it kind of removes a little bit of the personality from the players. When they can't choose what color they like to play, some players like QXC always picks purple, Stefano always picks pink, etc. But I feel like that's just not that big of a deal. Their personality usually shines through anyways. And, if it makes casting easier, if it makes observing, I mean, think about the other people. Like, if 10% of men in the world are colorblind, I'm not going to be the only one casting. Like, there's other people that are watching the stream that maybe can't tell what's going on, especially when you're on, like, 360p quality, something like that. So, yeah, I think it would be a great idea for many tournaments to adopt that rule.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've seen in the Dota 2 beta, but they actually have an option for the potential to have color blindness mod in it, built in. So do you think this is something that game developers, especially within the esports community, should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to be aware of. They don't necessarily have to like put in time developing colorblindness, specifications or mods. Usually, that's done by like a third party. We have, for example, like I play League of Legends, and I have a third-party colorblind mod I put into it. But when a company does actually put it into the game itself, it's really, really convenient and nice because then it gives tournaments the opportunity to put it in as well. If it's a third-party mod, usually tournaments are not going to want to do that. So, for example, as much as I love playing League of Legends, I can't watch Pro League of Legends at all. The nameplates are green and red. I can't tell them apart. So they can't use a colorblind mod because it's a third-party mod. So if it were actually built into the game like you're saying it is in Dota 2, then that could make it just a lot easier for viewers everywhere that have colorblindness to watch.
Okay, so going back to your career, can you tell us a little bit about Orb Knows Best and if you'll ever revive it?
Oh, man. Orb Knows Best. It was a show, for those of you that don't know, it was a show that I did back in the day. In the beta, I basically, Day9 was doing his daily, but he wasn't doing like Fun Day Monday, Newbie Tuesday, he wasn't doing all that stuff yet. It was just his normal daily, so he was only only going over pro replays. And I feel like there was a little bit of a void in the scene that wasn't there for analyzing newbie replays, just to help them out improving, because when you analyze like a noob's replay on stream, everybody else that's watching can also learn from their mistakes. It's just so useful. So I started doing this to just have people send me in their replays. Anybody under, I guess it was Diamond at the time, the Masters didn't exist, but anybody under that league to send me in replays, went over them. It was a lot of fun. But then once I kind of got out of the scene, it was like, well, now I'm quitting. I'm not playing StarCraft anymore anyways. I don't have time to do this. I'm working all the time. And when I came back, it was like, well, now Day9's already doing Newbie Tuesday, so it's like, oh, I would be copying him if I did it. And at the same time, that's actually what most people pay for with coaching. Like, while there is a lot of interactiveness in coaching with people playing with the person they're coaching, at the same time, like personally at least, I know I spend at least like half the time coaching is replay analysis. So it's kind of like, oh, let me just coach for free, which is admirable. It's great that you see some people on the forums coaching for free, but I'm just too busy to be able to do that right now, unfortunately.
So you were a big player in the beta. What brought you into StarCraft 2? Did you have a Brood War experience or history? Did you have a Warcraft 3 history?
I actually never played Warcraft 3, sadly enough, but I played Brood War. It was funny. My brother bought that game the day it came out. I didn't know what it was. I was like, whatever, some scrub game. I was like playing FPSs and stuff at the time. But I really enjoyed it. I was playing just like UMS stuff at the time, like Bounds and Lurker Defense and crazy stuff like that. But around 2007 or so, one of my good friends nearby who was into the competitive scene showed me videos of like Boxer, showed me an FP VOD of Nada, and I was like, oh my god, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. The amount of APM, the amount of multitasking, it was just unbelievable. So I knew it was something I wanted to get into, especially when you see these videos of like giant stadiums just completely filled in Korea. So I really wanted to get into that, and I started watching. The more I watched, the more I loved it, and the more I really loved StarCraft. I started playing more. I was playing on IC Cup. I was never that good. I only got to C+, so never actually broke into the B ranks, but whatever, C+, somewhat respectable, I guess. And from there, I was just waiting for beta, and the day beta came out, it was like I remember I was actually in French class. I had told this specific friend who had got me into esports, text me when beta comes out. In the middle of French class, I get this text, beta's out in all caps. I just stand up in the middle of class, I'm like, bye, and just walked out of the classroom to go get the beta. So I don't know, maybe in retrospect not the best decision, but I stand by it for now.
So you actually applied to the Complexity Academy. Can you tell me about your decision to do that, as well as maybe how the process went for you?
Sure, that was around the time when I had just stopped working and I wanted to get back into competitive playing. Whether I wanted to be a player or a caster, I knew I needed that game knowledge. And at that time, I was still trying to be a competitive player. I was trying to go into the pro scene. I hadn't been like knocked out by all those nukes yet, so I really wanted to do that and see if I could, use that team experience to help me improve as much as possible. When you have really good teammates to practice with, it's just an unbelievable resource. It's so much better than just mass laddering. So that's what I was really hoping for there. Unfortunately, I did get knocked out during the bracket phase by none other than Jedi Gamer. Oh my god, that was an awful match, to be honest. He came into the match starting off just QQing in chat for like 20 lines just about how the last person had all-in'd him, this stupid all-in scrub, and then he all-ins me with a 1-1-1 with every single one of his SCVs back when everyone thought 1-1-1 was like unbeatable. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm out of this tournament now, and I have like zero respect for Jedi Gamer as a result.
Was it hard for you to give up the pro player dream?
Not really, to be honest. Going into casting, it was like, wait a minute. All of a sudden, instead of having 50% of the people in my stream chat be like, you're terrible, lol, 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 such a bad play, all of a sudden I got all these people just like, oh, you're doing really well with casting, everything's going nice. It was just the best transition possible. So I never looked back and I was like, oh, man, I wish I could have made it as a pro. That never happens. It's honestly, I get better feedback as a caster. I think it's easier to be a caster in this environment right now than it is to be a player. You get paid better. It's just more secure. It's not as hard work. You don't have to spend 12 hours a day practicing. So no, I don't really ever look back and think, oh my god, I wish I could have been a pro. The only thing I regret is that I was never actually able to compete in a booth. That was always my dream. I wanted, even if I didn't win a tournament, I wanted to get to the point where I could be like on stage at MLG in a booth playing. But never happened. That's my only regret. But it's not that big of a deal. I really love casting, so I'm happy to be where I am.
Can you tell me how you got involved with the ESV Korean Weekly?
Sure. If I can remember, I was trying to get as much casting as possible at the time. I just was trying to cast for literally anyone I could find. And at the time, they were IC Cup TV. And obviously, I loved IC Cup from Brood War days. IC Cup TV is completely separate, but Pat, or IC Cup Diamond, the CEO of IC Cup TV, was trying to bring me on. And we also had like Railcoon casting at the time as well. So there were some other, not maybe like top tier like Tasteless Artosis casters, but like mid tier casters in there as well that I got to cast with, and I can't honestly remember how I got in contact with him. I think I probably already knew him. I had met him in real life at one of the early like MLGDC, and things just shot off from there. It ended up working out really well. Had a lot of fun, and to this day I still cast it because it's not like, oh, I cast it because I make a lot of money or something. I cast that because I love it. It's so awesome. You get the top like B team or A team or Koreans duking it out on some of the best custom maps in the scene. It's just a blast. Anyone that doesn't watch, you got to tune in and watch that tournament. It's so awesome.
So yeah, you were saying custom maps, the ESV team, obviously, map making team. How is your relationship with the map making community, and how do you feel that the StarCraft 2 community needs to evolve with the map making community?
I would say I have much of a relationship with the map making community. I mean, I talk with the map making guys on ESV, and I give them like feedback if we're having like problems with some of the maps. But other than that, it's not like I'm very involved. I never make maps. I don't really go on and like leave feedback on random maps or anything like that. But as you know, as far as you're saying, like the scene, where the scene needs to go, I think there's a lot left to be desired. There was actually an interview with Prodigy, the lead designer of ESV, that was posted on Team Liquid recently. Definitely check that out because he talks about a lot of this stuff. He says it really well. I mean, the scene, it's kind of, to be honest, embarrassing that, for example, like Xenog Caverns has still been in the map pools this long. You know, it took this long. We're still playing on like Shattered Temple and Metalopolis. It's kind of sad, to be honest. Like, yeah, they're okay maps, and we certainly have seen some extremely exciting games on them, but there's just so many like better maps nowadays, and that's why it's super exciting to see like the TL map contest, the IPL map making contest. Hopefully Blizzard will maybe start mixing some of these into the ladder. Hopefully we'll get more of them into the big tournaments, because what ends up happening is all of these tournaments do the same thing. Like MLG, the big tournaments, they set the stage. They are still using these maps, and thus every other smaller tournament is like, well, we're going to use the MLG map pool because that's what pro players are playing on, and that ends up being a problem.
So obviously I have to ask you the question, what's your favorite map to play, and what's your favorite map to cast?
Oh, man, I have actually never thought about that. My favorite map to play I'm trying to think, because I usually only play ladder nowadays. I don't get that much time to play on custom maps. I just love casting them. But, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say probably like Sandshore Mists would be my favorite map to play. Just of the ones I actually do end up getting to play, probably either like Terminus or Tal'Darim, like one of those ones that just has a million expansions available. I really hate when I'm in a situation like I'm playing on Xenog Caverns and it's like, well, I've taken every base on the map. What do I do now? You know, it's like there's nothing you can do. So I really like those big macro maps as opposed to number one map to cast, Katrina, easily. I skip Katrina. They remade the Brood War map. If any of you know Katrina from Brood War, it was this awesome map that just had so many macro possibilities. It has a full in-base expansion, something that really was unexplored in StarCraft 2 until that map. No rocks blocking it, nothing like that. Full, you got both Vespene Geysers, 8 patches, unlike what you have in Crevasse. So it really allows for some awesome macro games, and we've just seen some unbelievable finals in the weekly on the map so far.
Also, kind of on a side note, what race do you play? I just realized I didn't know.
Well, lately I've been playing random. I just play random all the time on ladder because I want to keep up my game knowledge and make sure I know all the matchups because I don't just get to cast Protoss matchups, I get to cast everything. So I've been playing random and just really trying to improve my game knowledge. So I am Masters random without like just playing standard games and without cheesing or any of that stuff. But my main is definitely Protoss. Like that's what I played back in the beta. That was my main for so long. That's what I was trying to compete with. So I still, I try to not have any bias in my casting, but Protoss is definitely the race I comprehend the most. I feel like casting PvP, I'm just so comfortable. I know exactly what's going on, whereas maybe in TVT, ZVZ, I know what's going on, but it's just, a little bit less comfortable than it is with, Protoss matchups.
So going back to the NASL, what's your chemistry with Grey Torp like?
Grey Torp is an awesome guy. I met Andre actually at a Brood War LAN back in 2009, I think. So we were competing basically, and he blew everyone at the LAN out of the park. He was so good that he was just demolishing everyone. I think he was actually undefeated in that LAN. He didn't lose a single game. So I became friends with Grey Torp pretty quickly. He was like chilling at my house a couple times. We were like playing just random like ladder games on IC Cup and stuff like that. So we became friends, and then what ended up happening was when he went over to cast the NASL after Season 1, well, Season 1, of course, they already had like In Control and everything. After Season 1, at an MLG, I was chatting with him, and basically he just talked to the production team and brought me on board. And they brought me in for a week of basically like kind of like test casting. I was doing it from home over my webcam. and I got such good feedback that they brought me back again and again. So that worked out really well, and I'm just endlessly grateful to Greytorp for bringing me on for the entire NASL scene. And now I just got to cast my first live event, which I'm super excited about, and it's basically all thanks to him. So I love Andre.
What's your growth been like as a caster over the season? What do you think you need to work on, and where's your biggest improvement been?
I have over just the season of NASL or over my casting career?
You do both.
All right. Well, over my casting career, probably my biggest improvements have been in my understanding of all the different matchups. When I started, since I was still playing Protoss, even though I watched a lot, I obviously just didn't have as much of that really good knowledge about the other matchups. I wouldn't know like the specific build orders. I wouldn't know specific counters, etc. So that's really improved a lot, and I'm glad that I've improved a lot on that. The number one thing I need to improve on still, at least the things I get criticized most for, is sometimes I talk so fast when stuff's going on because I just have so many things I want to say, and it's like there's not enough time in a real game for me to say them. So I often end up speaking very, very quickly, which some people maybe can't understand me if I'm speaking too quickly. The other thing is that since I solo cast so much, I've gotten so used to that sometimes, I'm not even aware of it enough, which is a problem. I need to really improve on this. But sometimes I've gotten criticism that I don't allow my co-caster to talk enough, which is really, really a bad thing. It's not like it's my show and the other guy's like, oh, he's my sidekick. No, it's like we're a team. So that was really discouraging me that I saw that on forums. I was like, oh my god, I have to fix this. That's probably right now the number one thing that I want to make sure I fix as quickly as possible.
What's it like adapting to different casters? You've been casting with new partners at the NASL finals. How do you adapt your style to theirs, and how do you kind of find that fun midway point with also being able to bring the analytical descriptions with it?
Yeah, I actually remember I just made this big post like a week ago on Reddit about this, like in some thread, but I think every caster kind of molds himself a little bit to their co-caster. Whoever you're casting with, you kind of change up depending on whether they're analytical, whether they're play-by-play, what their humor style is. You're actually going to be like making different jokes depending on who you're with. Maybe spending a different amount of time doing different things. For example, like if I'm playing with or if I'm casting with someone I really think is an excellent analytical caster, I'll start like asking them questions about what they think would be the best strategy in a certain situation, etc. Whereas if I'm with someone that's a little bit more play-by-play, I'll try to make sure I get in as much analysis before battles as possible and give them over the battles, etc. But overall, yeah, I think the entire style of casting for every caster really changes dramatically depending on who you're casting with. So that's what I was talking about on Reddit was, people, Greytorp is a controversial character in NASL. Some people love him, some people hate him, and I was just, people were talking about my casting with him. I was basically saying, if you don't like Greytorp's casting, you're not going to like my casting with him, We work together. All casters are going to try to work together as a team. So it's like when you look at a caster pair, you have to keep in mind that it is a pair. It's not just two individual casters together, and that's why you see so many companies like IPL, for example, unwilling to mix around the caster pairs and always just keep those, those tried and true setups the same way.
So I've been told that we're a little bit pressed for time, so I got one more question. You said that this is your first live experience or live casting experience. Can you tell us what it's like being a caster in this environment and things that have surprised you, especially things with handling fans and kind of being the center of attention?
Well, I wouldn't call myself the center of attention just to start off because, there's like 11 casters at this event, and so many of them are just so much higher tier than I am. You got like Day9 and DJ Wee and, Husky and everyone. So. But it was an absolute blast to cast. I had so much fun. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get cast any more games after this, but I got to cast like 4 matches here. It was an insane amount of fun, and it's crazy when you're hyping up a battle that's going on, and you can just hear the crowd just screaming and just being so excited about it. It's really amazing because you can kind of direct their energy. If I'm in a game and I'm trying to really highlight, okay, this is why what this player is doing is really smart. This is why this battle is so important. All of a sudden, you can just immediately get that crowd feedback, and you can see what they think about it. They'll start, getting a lot more riled up about some huge battle that's going on, and it's amazing to just have that kind of like emotion, like washing over you, like just being in the middle of all the spectators. But I still not at all to bash NASL, of course, but I still feel like I haven't gotten to cast like a giant event or whatever. The viewer count was probably just a little bit less than what you see at like MLG or IPL. Although we aren't at the final day yet, so who knows. But overall, it was just a great event. I had a lot of fun with it, and I hope to do a lot more in the future.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for the interview.
And have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the time off.
You as well. Thank you.